welcome everyone to the webinar this evening, which I'm calling The Magic Formula, Make More Money in Your Business. This is Barry Moltz. Before we get started, I want to hand this over to my marketing manager, Courtney Dury, who's going to do a little housekeeping so you know how to answer the polls, how to chat, and give some feedback. So Courtney, welcome.
I am here, and I'm glad you guys are here too. If you look on your dashboard, there's an area where you see questions, and if you just at any point have a question, please go ahead and type that in, and Barry will answer it in the Q&A portion at the very end. And if you have any technical difficulties, just go ahead and shoot it in there. I'll see it, and I can try to help you out. Also, we're going to be launching a couple polls, and you'll see that come up on your screen, and just feel free to respond how you see fit, and we'll share the results, and it'll just be an interactive experience for everyone.
All right, great, Courtney. Well, let me kick this off. Trying to advance my slides here. Let's see here. Try to advance my slides. There we go. I'm going to kick this off by really saying that this webinar is not going to be a lot of fluff, although marshmallow fluff is my drug of choice when things get tough, but these are going to be actionable things about what you actually need to do to make more money by following the magic formula in 2016. I'm going to tell you the what, and at the end of the webinar, we're going to talk about how I can work with you really on the how. The first thing everyone needs to do is get outside their comfort zone, because that's a problem. You know, you go to work every day and you do the same thing over and over and over and over again, and somehow, some way, you expect to get different results. Now, Albert Einstein said that this really was the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, expect to get different results. Now, I know that intellectually that we all say, hey, I never do that, but think about what you do when you go to work every day, how you take the same approach. And part of what I'm trying to do in this webinar is to give you a different perspective, perhaps the same issues you've been dealing with for a long time. And where I want you to start is really to do something that probably no one has ever asked you ever in any kind of webinar to do, and that's really to strive for minimal achievement. Now, what do I mean by striving for minimal achievement? And I'm going to illustrate that by a story. There are these two monks. They're sitting by the river, and they're talking about the sheer power of their Zen masters, of their teachers. The first monk says, my Zen master, he's so powerful, he can walk across the river without using a bridge. The other Zen master says, the other Zen student says, that's nothing. My Zen master, he's so powerful that when he chops wood, he chops wood. When he cooks rice, he cooks rice. Now, since this is a Zen parable, it can mean almost anything. But what I take away from the story is the incredible power that we can get in our businesses and our lives by focusing on one thing at a time. And that's becoming increasingly difficult. I'm wondering out there how many people right now are just watching and listening to this webinar and not doing other things. We live in a multitasking society where it's really hard to do one thing at a time, and therefore we actually accomplish less. So what I want you to do is actually try to focus tonight and strive for minimal achievement, and pick the one change you want to work on, you want to make as a result of this webinar, and do that until you start on anything else. Now, all this talk doesn't mean anything unless we take action. And everybody that's on the call has really taken the first step because you decided to show up tonight when you could be doing other kinds of things. So before we get started, I want to get an idea of what kinds of things all of you really do want to achieve in 2016 and how you want to use the magic formula. So we're going to do some polls here. So Courtney, if you would start the first poll, and I want to see what your priorities are. So if you could launch the first one.
So if you guys see on your screen, go ahead and please select one, either yes or no.
So the first question is, do you want to increase your sales by 20% in the next 7 months?
Okay, looks about half of you have voted. Go ahead and make your selection.
So at this point, we have over 80% of the people want to increase their sales in the next 7 months. Courtney, why don't you go to the next poll?
All right. Poll number 2 is up on your screen. Go ahead and vote.
So the next thing is, it's okay to increase your sales, but what about increasing your profit? How many of you want to increase your profits by 25% in the next 6 months? Now this should be an easy one, because sometimes everyone doesn't want to grow for some good reasons, but profits, 100% of the people, Courtney, want to do that. Now that's not a surprise. So let's go to the third poll now.
Poll number 3 is up on your screen. Go ahead and vote.
This is a big issue because I find that we're not really retaining as many people as far as full-time or part-time as part of our staff that we used to, because the job market is really good. How many of you would like to increase retention of your staff by 50% this year?
Okay, I'm going to close the poll and show the results.
Okay, so it's about 50-50, a little bit of a surprise there. I don't know why people wouldn't want to increase their retention unless they've got some staff they really don't want to be with. Courtney, let's go to the next poll.
Poll number 4 is up on your screen. Go ahead and vote.
So this is one where I want to know if you want to increase your cash flow in your business by 30%. This is not your profit. This is not the sales. This is actually the cash that you bring home over the next 6 months. And again, this is not a surprise. 100% want people want to do that. And let's go to the fifth and final poll, Courtney. Do you want to increase your individual and staff productivity by 50% over the next 2 months? Because I'm going to talk about a little later today, I know that all of us are busy. The question is, are we productive? And again, this is an easy one. It's 100% of people want to include their productivity. So these are the kinds of things that you actually can achieve over the next 6 or 12 months if you apply the magic formula. So let's get started here. I have really been where all of you being involved in small business and as small business owners really are now. I've been in business for 35 years. I know the picture. I look a little bit younger than that. I started when I was 3. I've had 3 of my own companies. I've consulted over the years to hundreds of companies. I speak every year to thousands of small business owners. And through my radio show, I think that we're on the 370th episode. Over 6 years, I've interviewed thousands of thought leaders. So I know exactly what you're going through. And since this is a Star Wars year, feel your pain. I do. I know where you're coming from, and I know what your problems are, and I know through the magic formula we actually can solve it. So this is the formula that I think can really achieve all those things that we talked about earlier in the polls. It can increase your sales, increase your profit, increase your cash flow, increase your increase your employee retention, and also improve your productivity. This is the magic formula. P times P equals P. Now I know that's a lot of P's, but what do they stand for? People times process equals profit. If you have the right people and you have them use the right process, it will increase your profit. And we're going to talk about each one of these things and what you can do to hit the goals and make more money in 2016. So let's start first with people. And I'm talking about all the people that you come in contact with, not just your employees. Maybe you're a solopreneur, you're part-time, you're full-time, you're freelancers, your vendors. You have to figure out how are you going to attract, train, and retain these folks, because it's not enough to attract them. You've got to train them or they're not going to stay, and you've got to motivate them or you're not going to be able to retain them. Now, the people part as I had 3 different businesses, probably is the most difficult part of the business. And I have a lot of small business owners coming up to me and saying, can I run a business where I don't need employees? Because it really is hard. And the kinds of complaints that I hear, I would say complaints, the concerns that I hear out of all sorts of small business owners are, I can't find good people, or I always have high staff turnover. I don't know why people won't stay. Employees don't work hard enough. Or if they're really honest with me, then they say, most people just suck. And I don't know if you felt any of these kinds of things, because it is difficult, because telling people to just do it just doesn't always do it. And this is really important. If you're going to be successful in your own small business, you've got to build a team of part-time, full-time freelancers and vendors, because that is the only way that you get leverage in your that means you just have a job. You really don't have a company. And if you just have a job, you can't go on vacation. You can't do all the other kinds of things. You can't sell your company to someone else and take some capital gains because it's just you. So what you need to know for the first P in the magic formula, people, is you need to know how to find and hire the best team. And that's all the people, as I said, that you come in contact with. The problems really start right here. Most of us as small business owners, we hire way too quickly. And why do we do that? We have an opening, we have something that needs to be done, because most of us, philosophy is what I call BIS, which is really just butts in seats. We have an opening for an employee or a freelancer or a job that needs to get done, and we just want someone doing it, and we just don't vet these people out. And that's a problem. Most small business owners are really bad at hiring folks because we consider ourselves A players. I think most of us would say that, but also A players that want to have control in the beginning, and we also have some pretty big egos. So we have a tendency to hire B players. And so the B players follow our example, and they hire C players. And of course, the C players hire D players. So while me as the A player, as a small business owner, we might be 90% effective, through mathematics, the D players are only going to be 40% effective. So what you need to know for the people P of the magic formula is, how do you train and retain the best people? And their best chance of success is really to get trained. And when I first started my businesses, I didn't train people at all. I figured if they had experience, they should be able to know right when they come in and, as they say, hit the ground running. In fact, in one of my companies, I even had people build their own desk on their first day of work. We're severely lacking in training people so they can be successful. Remember, the golden rule on why people actually stay at a company is when the company goals actually match the employee goals. When their goals, whatever they want to accomplish in life, in their career, match what your company is doing, they stay. When they diverge, people leave. That's why it's important that for every person you work with, you need to find out what their bullet is. And what do I mean what their bullet is? It means that somewhere along the line they're going to leave, they're going to work with other people, or if they're a freelancer, they're going to take on other jobs. And what you want to know is, and you can ask them this, what bullet are you going to put on your resume when you describe your experience at this job? Most people say, this is what I did this job, and here's what I achieved. If you can know what those bullets are up front, you can work with that individual to make sure they achieve those bullets, so they'll produce and be satisfied for your company. What you also need to know for the people P is, how do you lead and manage your team? And I put down here lead and manage because most people don't understand that they're two different things. One of the problems that a lot of small business owners have is that their organization is set up in a hub and spoke manner. And this happens because when you first start a business, there's only one dot. That's the whole organization. And then when you hire other people, assistants, to help you with different kinds of things, everybody works through you. But somewhere along the line, it's about when you get 5 or 6 people, you can't have just you at the center and everyone working through you, because you become a major roadblock. Somewhere along the line has to become much more hierarchical, so you're not involved in every single decision. I think where this starts is you have to determine, are you a leader or a manager? Very few people are both. And who else is your company, in your company, is actually filling this role? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And they actually don't necessarily have the titles manager. There could be a lot of leaders that are just individual performers. You have to remember that people respect what you inspect. I'll take this very simply down to you. Those of you on the call that have children, if you tell your children to clean up their room, and afterwards, if you didn't inspect their room to see it was cleaned, how many people do you think, how many kids do you think would actually clean up their room if you know they wouldn't inspect it? We tell our employees to do all sorts of things. If we don't have some mechanism in place to make sure they perform, then it's unlikely that it's going to get done. What you also need to know about the people part of the equation is, how do you build an effective culture? And this word culture is really important because, like it or not, every single organization has some kind of culture, whether you've named it or not. And do all your employees actually fit into that culture? Because most of us, when we're looking at the people part of the magic formula equation, we hire for skills. We don't hire for attitude. I believe you can teach most people anything, or a lot of people come with the similar kinds of skills. It's really their attitude. Do they fit into the culture that's really going to determine the success at their company? And then, how are you really shaping your culture on a daily basis? Because if you're not shaping your culture on a daily basis, you better believe that someone else inside your organization actually is. And one of the final things we need to know if we're going to be effective at the people part of the magic formula equation is, how do we fire non-performers? And most small business owners are really bad at this. We have to be slow to hire, as I said before, not just have butts in seats. And we need to be quick to fire. Most people don't change in the first 2 to 4 weeks as far as performance comes. And this is one place where I agree with the Donald when he says you're fired. We have to be really good at firing people, and we hate to do this because it makes us sick. We know we're putting someone else on the street. We have to admit we made a mistake. A lot of times the devil we know is better than the devil we don't know. But that person staying there really is hurting your entire company. Everybody knows that. Everybody talks about it, and you've got to do something about it. The last thing here is, what you need to know is how to boost individual and team productivity. Because if the people aren't productive in the people part of the magic formula equation, you're not going to get the multiplier through the process. And a lot of us have these symptoms of just not being productive. We're actually getting less done despite furious multitasking. You know, the day is filled with distractions, and in fact, sometimes you get so used to distractions, you go looking for interruptions. You don't come into the day with some kind of committed plan. And I find what most small business owners do is that they confuse being busy with being productive. So let me set that straight for you. Being busy means you're just doing stuff. Being productive is actually getting the stuff done that really can move your business forward, that you're really being proactive with that. We have met the enemy, and this enemy, this is actually me fighting for my black belt test a couple of years ago. The enemy really starts with us. If we don't change our own personal productivity habits, we can't expect the people around us to improve as well. And there's a major thing that really is working against us, is this thing you might have heard of called the internet. Because in my belief that unlimited access really means an unlimited waste of time. And that we live in this interruption-based culture, and that 80% of interruption studies show at work are really trivial, that you don't need to be interrupted. And again, my belief is, and it's been shown in a lot of scientific papers, that multitasking actually causes brain damage. We have to really understand that your brain can only do one thing at a time. When you're multitasking, you're actually only switching back and forth really quickly and really not putting the maximum effort and getting the maximum return by working at two or more things at the same time. So this is the what you need to do. At the end of the webinar, I'm going to show how we can work together to actually implement this, and that will really be the how to actually do it well. So that's the first part of the equation, which is the people. Now you take really great people and a really strong culture, and in the magic formula, you multiply times the process. Now I know in this world where things are constantly changing, a lot of people don't want to get bogged down in process. We have to remember that for a small business, process is of critical importance. Believe it or not, process will give you more control over what goes on in your small business. And because you have more control, you actually have more freedom to grow the company, to take vacations, and have more flexibility on who you hire if you have some good standard operating procedures in place. And in the end, it's going to lead to more profit. You have to be able to set up processes that actually work, and have to know when to change them when they don't work. Because if you don't have a set process that every single person does, then every single time an issue comes up, as they say, you're going to be reinventing the proverbial wheel. And this is why a lot of small business owners fail. If you think about it, think McDonald's. Why are they so successful? Because in every single one of the McDonald's franchises, they have the same process that they train the franchisees to do over and over and over again. They don't deviate from that because they know exactly what is successful. Believe it or not, your standard operating procedure in all the different areas, in sales and production and marketing and finance, that can actually be your competitive advantage, because when people leave, all their knowledge won't go along with them. They'll actually have the standard operating procedure for new people to actually be trained on. So what you need to know in the process part of the equation is you need to understand how to set up a marketing and sales process that keeps your pipeline full. And this is a problem for a lot of small business owners, and you see this graphic going on the screen here. The blue line represents your sales. Many times during the year, you're really busy with a lot of sales, then it gets slow, you get busy, it gets busy, it gets slow. And what you do during those slow times is you panic that you don't have any business. So you start doing some marketing and some selling. And to your surprise, it actually brings in some sales. But just when you get sales, you then stop doing any marketing, and then your business goes down. So this is why your revenue stays flat. I call it the double helix trap. It's the trap that every small business involved in. What makes it worse is when times get rough, when we get into a recession like we did in 2008, that we might be in 2016 or 17, the first thing that actually goes is marketing, because we don't have a process, we don't do it consistently, so we just let it go. And that actually hurts your business even more, because we have to understand as small business owners that if you have no marketing, you really will have no new business. And I just don't mean marketing where you're doing it every once in a while. I mean putting together a systematic process where you're doing marketing automatically every single day. We also need to have processes that come up in the production area or the development area so we can produce an excellent product at the right cost. This is where a lot of development people, small business owners, are pretty strong, because they know they have to keep doing it the same way over and over again or have it evolve, or it's never going to be a great product at the right cost of service. Another place where we fall down in process really is our financial and budgeting. Most small business owners don't have a budget. They don't review their finances. And here really are the sad facts. I've been traveling around the country for the last 15 years talking to thousands and thousands of small business owners. And through my surveys, I have found that 50% of small business owners can't read a profit and loss statement. It's also called an income statement. 25% can only read a balance sheet, or can read a balance sheet. And the saddest factor is that 5% can read a cash flow statement. And I know many of you don't even know what a cash flow statement is. It's the difference between the amount of cash you have in your bank account at the beginning of the month versus the end of the month. And this is one of the most important statements that are out there because it determines whether you can grow your business and pay your bills. If you're not looking at these financial statements on a monthly basis or don't understand, we have to understand that Alice in Wonderland really was right. If you don't know where you're going, any path will actually take you there. You've got to know where you've been if you want to know where you're going. So this is what you need to do through the implementation of the magic formula, which I'm going to show you later, is really the how. And remember, we don't have to come up with what I call all singing and dancing process, the perfect process. It could have only 3 or 4 or 5 steps. It could be something very simple, but we need to have a process and constantly improve on those. So let's talk about the third part of the equation, which is people times process equals more profit. And there's 3 areas that the magic formula can help you. The first one is breaking down the barriers, growing your company, and improving your cash flow, because we want to be stars. That's the reason why we started our companies, was to be successful and support our businesses. And that actually to be Leonardo DiCaprio in his first win for the Oscar, but here he was playing the Great Gatsby. I don't know if you've ever heard this joke which says the small business owner who goes to sleep at night like a baby early and then he wakes up screaming his head off. I know a lot of small business owners like me when I was running my companies. I used to stay up all night really worrying about the cash. How was I going to pay all my bills? How was I going to pay my employees? So these are some of the symptoms where you really need to improve the profit part of the equation. That you're worried about cash, that you don't review financial statements monthly, that in fact you're afraid to review them because you don't know what surprises there's going to be. You don't understand what your CPA or your bookkeeper is telling you. Now, if this part is messed up, we didn't get there overnight. Most of the times, this is a problem because our expenses exceed our income, our prices may be too low, or maybe we offer too many discounts, our overhead, our fixed overhead may be too high, we might be paying our bills too early, or there's long collection cycles, we don't go out and actually go collect the money. And we've actually outsourced all the numbers knowledge. We don't understand it ourselves. And I get this more than almost anybody else out there, because when I sold my last business in 1999, and I am not proud of this, I lost $1 million off the sales price of my business because I didn't understand every number on the balance sheet. If I had, I would have been $1 million richer. Well, $500,000 because I had a partner then. And this was particularly embarrassing because I had an MBA from Northwestern Kellogg University School of Management. And so I know if I had an MBA and I'd understand it, I know there's a lot of folks out there that don't understand it too. And I can help you with that in the magic formula. We need to understand all the financial principles and actually how your company makes money and where the actual leverage is. We need to understand what the leverage is, because if you have a company that grows, and it seems like most of you want to grow your company, then receivables will actually grow. Inventory, if you have a product, will need to grow. And this actually sucks cash, and you need more working capital, so you have to be good at this stuff. You've got to know where the leverage is in your business. If you're running a services business, usually it's in the people. The way the services business works is that I charge the customer $100 for the service, I pay the employee $30, and I use $70 to pay my overhead. You get leverage by hiring more people. For a business that's product-based, you invest some money in a product, you produce the product for a far less cost than you sell it for. Or is the leverage in the intellectual property similar to what happens with video games? They put a lot of money in development of a video game, and then people download it, and the cost of goods is almost nothing. But they invested a lot of money in intellectual property. Is your leverage in your distribution like Amazon is? You can get almost anything the next day, or in some cities the same day. The distribution really is where their leverage is. Or is your leverage in an annuity, that once a customer signs up, they automatically keep paying you every single month for the next 2 or 3 years, kind of like a telephone contract. Understand where that is in your business. What is your basic revenue model, and have a bottoms-up approach. How many customers does it take? What's the average revenue for a customer? What is the cost of goods or service per customer? What does it cost to acquire a customer? What are the product development costs per unit? Understanding all these things are critical if you're really going to maximize the profit part of the magic formula. What else you need to know is you've got to understand these key metrics to track your business at every single stage. And a good place to start is when each of you registered for the webinar, you got my business health score assessment. I would highly recommend you go through it, give yourself a score, and it'll show you where you're weak in your business and areas where you're already strong. It's critical of importance. What you need to know is how to pick a CPA or other financial advisor. Now, I know a lot of you folks have a hard time with accountants and financial advisors, but I want to let you know that these people really are not your enemy. The bank's not your enemy. The accountant's not your enemy. If they can't speak your language, if they make you feel stupid, if you can't understand what they're saying, you have to go and find another accountant, another bank, because these are people that should help you understand your business, not really be a roadblock in the way. So these are the what's and what you need to do if you're going to implement the magic formula. So again, I want to help you achieve these things that we set out. I can help you increase your sales by 20% in 7 months, increase your profit by 25% in 6 months, increase your attention, increase your cash flow, and increase your team productivity if you'll let me help you implement the magic formula. That's why for the first time and the only time this year, I'm kicking off the Magic Formula Business School. I've shown you the what. In the Magic Formula Business School, I'm going to lay out the how. We're going to apply P times P equals P. And let me tell you a little bit about the format of this session. There's going to be 3 components. First, there'll be an introductory to each one of the modules, which will be some self-paced videos and workbooks. And then we'll have some recorded group learning and coaching sessions so you can maximize your experience. And then I'll be working with each person that signs up one-on-one so we can customize this program to your business and to make sure you actually achieve what I set out and what we promised. This is going to happen over a 3-month period of time starting at the end of March so it fits your business and you can get the results that you deserve. So let me go through the program with you. The first is a preparation phase. Before we kick off in this whole session, I'm going to get together with you one-on-one to really understand what goals are and how you can really max out this program. And then we're going to start on the people part of the equation. Module 1 is going to be a complete video-assisted workbook exercise on leadership and management, plus a bonus video on productivity. Module 2 is going to be a group call. And in this group call, I'm going to lay out how to do these 6 things. How you can hire the best people, full-time, part-time, freelancer, or vendors, how to fire non-performers, how to train the best people, how to manage and lead your team, how to build an effective culture, and how to boost individual and team productivity. And then in Module 3, we're then going to have a one-on-one personal coaching session with me so we can talk about how we're going to implement these things that you just learned at your company. Part 2, we're going to focus on the process. We're going to have another video-assisted workbook exercise on sales and marketing, and there's going to be a bonus video on turning customer service into a profit center for your business. And these are all videos that I recorded last year, and there's about 27 of them if you want to watch all of them with workbooks. So you'll be able to prep each one of the areas. Module 5 is going to be a 90-minute group call, how to set up a process that works and how to change it if it doesn't, and then how to set up the various processes in your company in marketing and sales, development, production, finance and budgeting, and customer service. And then again, this is going to be followed by an individual call with me to make sure we're applying these principles in detail to your business. And then finally, part 3, we're going to focus on maximizing the profit for your company. You're going to get the video-assisted workbook exercise called The Secret Wealth Hidden in Your Numbers. And then we'll do a group call where we'll review the financial principles and figure out how your company actually makes money. And depending on what kind of company you are, I'm going to lay out what the key metrics are that you should be looking at in each type of company. And then I'm going to help you figure out how to pick the best financial advisors and get the discipline so you can look at these financial statements every single month. And then finally, we're going to do a one-on-one coaching session to make sure that you actually achieve 25% more profit in the next 6 months. Now, here's my guarantee, and no program out there really has this kind of guarantee, that if you do not achieve all of these milestones in the next 5 months, then at any time you can ask for your money back. So if we fail to increase your sales, your profit, your staff retention, your productivity, or your cash flow, you can get 100% of your money back. Now, since I have to do individual calls for all of this, I'm limiting this to 20 spots. And if you want, you can sign up at www.barrymoltz.com/magic. And if you sign up in the next 24 hours after this call, since so many of you are on it, there's some free bonuses over the next 24 hours. First, an extra hour consulting time from me for your business, and the second thing is a complete library of all 5 of my books. So that's how I really want to help you make more money in 2016 by implementing what I've learned over the last 35 years, which is really the magic formula: how to hire, retain the best people, implement the best process to maximize the profit in your business. If you have any questions, I want to put this slide up here. You can email me at barry@moltz.com or give me a call, 773-837-8250. And Courtney, we're also going to do an exit survey because I want to know, how was this webinar for you? Were you able to learn something from it to really start you on the path of what you need to do to make more money in 2016? Again, I appreciate everyone attending. If you've got any questions, you can email me at barry@moltz.com, and that's probably the best, most direct way to do it. Thank you very much, and have a great evening.